Awesome. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kelly Garland. I am one of the Assistant Directors of Admission here at Merrimack, and I am so excited to be joined by Adrienne Montgomery, who is our Director of Financial Aid at Merrimack. We're so glad that you were able to join us today to learn a little bit more about Merrimack and a little bit more about financial aid. We know that it's a big piece of the puzzle when it comes to looking and applying at colleges. So we're really glad that you've decided to join us to learn a little bit more about this process that can definitely be very overwhelming. And we're so lucky that Adrienne can really break it down and hopefully make it a little less intimidating for you and your student as you start to navigate this process. So without further ado, Adrienne, I will turn it over to you.
Great, well, welcome everybody. As Kelly said, I'm Adrienne, I'm the Director of Financial Aid here at Merrimack. I've been at Merrimack for about 9 years now, so I'm excited to share some information with you and help you along this financial aid journey. If you'd like to move on, Kelly. All right, so tonight we're going to talk a little bit about what financial aid is. Where does this funding come from and how it is that you apply for it? So we'll go through a little bit of the FAFSA process. Now that the FAFSA is available for next year, I wanted to go through some details there. And then we'll talk about how financial aid decisions are made in general. And I will throw in a little bit about how Merrimack makes decisions and the type of aid that we offer. Okay, so financial aid in a nutshell is any sort of funding that helps you or your student pay for college. And there are three main types of aid. There are grants and scholarships, and this is gift money. This is money that doesn't need to be repaid, so a lot of times the money that people are looking for on their financial aid award letters. There's also federal work study. This is money that a student works for while they're on campus, or they can sometimes work off campus and earn a paycheck that they earn biweekly that they can then use to pay towards their tuition or their room and board or any fees that they have. And then there's also student loans. Student loans need to be repaid. Federal student loans are considered financial aid because of their special repayment rates, some of their low interest rates, and it's the only type of loan a student can borrow where there's no credit check required. It's guaranteed loan as long as the student files the FAFSA. All right, next. All right, so you can see here there are 4 different buckets where the financial aid comes from. We have the federal government, and that you become eligible for by filing the FAFSA. We have, for those in Massachusetts, the state of Massachusetts or the state you live in, if you're going to a college where there's a reciprocal program where your state can send money there. There's also the college or university that you are applying to. And then there's outside agencies. As you can see in all 4 buckets here, there are grants and scholarships, which are the free, the money that doesn't need to be repaid. It's gift aid. There's also loans. So each of them offers or can offer a loan to the students, and some of them either have tax incentives or tuition waivers. For the federal grants and the state grants, those are typically reserved for the needier families, so students with families with lower income. The loans also are offered for the federal government for anyone. So regardless of your financial need, just by filing the FAFSA, you're eligible for a federal loan. For Massachusetts, Massachusetts has a special loan program that Merrimack participates in, which is the Massachusetts No Interest Loan Program, again, for higher need families. And then there's the university. So at Merrimack, we offer grants, which I'll go into a little bit more later. We offer scholarships. We do not have a college loan, but we will help you find loans if it's something you need. Again, and another thing is outside agencies, and I'll talk about it a little bit later about scholarships. I really want you to be thinking about outside scholarships, and then we'll talk about how it is that you go about looking for a private loan. And then there are fee waivers that you might have through different other tax incentives or through other programs. All right, next. Okay, let's talk about merit aid. Merit aid is money that is awarded to the student based on an academic achievement. It could be, as it says here, artistic, athletic, a variety of different things. And this is money that doesn't need to be repaid. But you want to make sure that you read about it, because some of these funds may or may not be renewable, meaning, do you need to have a certain GPA? Do you need to have a, do you need to be performing at a certain level in order for the scholarship to be renewed? So you want to make sure that you read the fine print so that you know how you can receive it each year that the student is in school. And you'll find that not every school is going to offer merit aid. So you may apply to 3 or 4 different schools, and you'll find that one offered you a scholarship, but the other didn't. And you might wonder why. And it's because schools have different buckets of money. They have different resources, and they're all dealing with different students. So do ask that question when you are applying to the college, whether or not a merit-based fund would be awarded to your son or daughter. There may be a separate application. There could be an essay that you have to write. There could be an audition. There could be a portfolio that you have to submit. So just by applying for it doesn't mean you'll necessarily receive it. You want to make sure that there's no extra steps and that you're following all the deadlines for those steps in order to be considered. All right, next page. Okay, then there's need-based aid. And need-based aid includes grants, which is the gift aid, money that you don't have to repay. It includes loans, so those federal loans we were talking about, and also the ability to earn money through work study. In order for us to be able to determine if you have need, you have to file the FAFSA, and we'll talk about that process in a little bit. Most financial need, I'll be honest with you, is need-based. And so you are going to want to file the FAFSA to be considered for that. The eligibility is based upon, it's called the federal methodology, and that is the formula that is used for the FAFSA, okay? If you want to go to the next page. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about federal direct student loans. This is the loan that I was talking to you, that is the no credit necessary loan that all students will be considered for if they file the FAFSA. The student is the borrower, no credit check. It could be subsidized or unsubsidized depending on your family's financial need. And what that means is that subsidized, if you get that, the government is going to pay for your interest while you are in school or you're in your 6-month grace period after the student graduates or goes less than half time. The interest rate is very low for this current year. It's at a 2.75 fixed rate, so that's excellent. And they determine that annually on July 1st with the Treasury bill. There are loan limits though. You can't borrow depending on the school you're going to for the whole cost of attendance. So $5,500, $6,500, $75, and $75. The minimum amount of an unsubsidized loan where the interest isn't covered is $2,000 each year. And then based upon your need, it could be all the way up to that aggregate amount for that year. As you can see here, if you borrow those amounts, you would have borrowed $27,000 through all 4 years, which is about a 300-month payment for 10 years, which is the standard repayment. Okay, lots of opportunities for deferment and forbearance with these loans. So I do encourage students to look at this loan first before looking at any others. All right, next. Okay, so what's the timeline? When is it that I'm going to be applying for it? Typically, and as you all know, or some of you know, the FAFSA became available on October 1st. So some of you may have already applied for it. If you, at Merrimack, what we ask is that you file your FAFSA at the same time that you're submitting your admission application. And the reason we do that is we want to make sure that we have everything so that if you are admitted and you do receive an admission letter, that your financial aid letter can be awarded to you alongside it, all right? Don't be late, right? Make sure that you're following deadlines. You don't want to miss out on any funding that might be available to you. So the timeline at each school is very, very important. Okay, FAFSA. Let's talk a little bit about the FAFSA. It's the free application for federal student aid. Free is the most important word. You want to make sure that you are going to this website here, FAFSA.gov, and not anywhere where you need to pay for it. If you find you get to a site where you need to pay for it, go somewhere else, or call the financial aid office if you're struggling and you need assistance. It became available October 1st. It will every year. It's required by all colleges only if you're looking to be considered for need-based aid. But like I said, need-based aid is the most financial aid there is out there. So you do want to make sure that you file it and do it annually. The biggest thing here that I'm going to show you here is this FSA ID. You want to make sure that you, the student, and at least one parent get an FSA ID and password, and make sure that this is registered with separate email addresses, because if in fact you do forget it at some point in time, you will need that email address to retrieve it, okay? Another cool thing about the FAFSA, to make it a little simpler, is they offer the IRS data retrieval tool. That will pull in your federal tax information for you, so you don't have to worry about looking at the lines on your tax return and worrying about which comes in. So look to see if you can do it. Most people are eligible for the IRS data retrieval tool. If you aren't, you might want to give a call to check out why it is that you're not eligible and see if you can do it. There's also a very cool mobile app right now that the students can do, and there's a little picture of it on the screen here so that you can actually go on your mobile phone and file your FAFSA. How easy is that, right? All right, next screen. So I think where parents get the confused most is in families when they're going through it your first time. It's going to seem a little cumbersome, but it gets easier. And if it is difficult, what I would encourage you to do is give us a call and we'll help you with it because you want to make sure you get in the right information. First thing is citizenship status. The student needs to be a US citizen or a permanent resident in order to file the FAFSA, okay? If a parent isn't a citizen, no problem. All you'll do is you'll use zeros for your social security number, but you will have to print your signature page and send it in. It's not one where you'll be able to do it on your own. Now we need to put in the parent. So who is a parent on the FAFSA? So I have it listed out here because sometimes I get this question. If your parents are married, whether they're same-sex parents or not, both of them need to be included on the FAFSA. All parents who live together, so your biological parents live together, whether they're married or not, they still need to be on the FAFSA. Okay, both of them. If your parents are divorced or separated, now the parent you're going to put down is your custodial parent and their spouse if they have remarried. I know that sometimes seems silly, but it is true. You need to put your spouse, regardless of whether or not they are supporting the child that's going to college. The custodial parent is the parent who you lived with the most in the past calendar year. If you lived with both parents 6 months of the year, then you will put down the parent that supplied the most financial assistance to your child. If, in some cases I've seen where parents actually it's 50, 50, 50, 50 with everything living, then you choose which parent it is you put on the FAFSA, okay? If you are in a situation where you have a legal guardian, the legal guardian for the FAFSA is not considered a parent, and that student would be independent and would skip that parent section. Next is the household. You're going to put the number of the people who will be in the household for the academic year that you are applying. So how many people are in the household? And then of that number of people in the household, how many of them will have children that will be at least half time in college? That's important because that's taken into consideration with the federal methodology in getting your EFC. Finally, you're going to put the colleges that you're applying to so that they can all receive your FAFSA. If you don't put them down, then we won't be able to get your FAFSA. All right, next. Okay, income. You're going to use taxed and untaxed income for both the parent and for the student. You're going to use 2019 income for the 21-22 FAFSA, which is actually great because the FAFSA just came out and that is the most recent tax return you filed, so you still can use the data retrieval tool. You're going to put down assets, savings, checking, investments. You're going to use your net of all of your investments and any sort of other property. Just make sure you don't put down the value of the home that you live in. That's very, very important because a lot of parents I've found, I'm looking like, I think that might be the value of your home. Also, if you own a small family business, anything less than 100 employees does not need to be put down on the FAFSA. Okay, and also don't include debt. You don't need to put down credit cards or loan debt. That's all built into the federal methodology. Okay, next. All right, so there's a simple formula. It seems simple to me, right? Maybe not to you, but it's the formula for financial aid is we take the cost of attendance, and I'm going to go into detail on these. Then we subtract out your expected family contribution or EFC, which is this number you get after all that you put into the FAFSA. They're going to spit a number out to you. And then we'll talk about what that number is. But the difference of those is your financial aid eligibility that colleges are going to then try to fill as much as they can. And not all colleges can fill it all. So sometimes you're going to end up with a balance and a gap from what it is that you think you can afford. And we'll talk about that as well. All right, next. All right, so the cost of attendance. This is going to be different at every school that you apply to, but the cost of attendance is made up of two categories: billed or direct expenses, and those are things you'll see on your, on your bill. So that'd be tuition fees, room and board if the student is opting to live on campus. And then there's non-billed, and those are expenses that you're likely to assume as a student. You're going to need books, you're going to need supplies and personal expenses. You may be a commuter and transportation, or you're flying to the college. So those are costs that you're going to assume that are part of that full year cost of attendance. All right, next. Now we have the expected family contribution, this number, your EFC, okay? Your EFC is going to be the same at every college you apply to. It may be different each year because you file the FAFSA each year. But it is not necessarily the amount that you're going to pay. So you may get an EFC, let's say you had one of 1,000, that doesn't mean you're going to pay $1,000. What that's saying is, based on the federal methodology, this is the dollar amount that the government feels your family has the amount to absorb for 1 year of college costs, but it's not necessarily what you will be paid. And it's the family's primary responsibility for paying that. And if you do have more than one child in college, then a lot of times what it's going to happen is that EFC for your family is going to be distributed between those children. Okay, next. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what Merrimack offers, right? So when you apply to Merrimack, what are the things you're going to be considered for? First thing is Merrimack scholarships. Okay, so we will be looking at you holistically. The admissions office looks at a variety of things to determine what level of scholarship that you can receive. The top 4 are our main merit funds, our presidents, trustees, deans, and Merrimack. Okay, so those go all the way up to $23,000 depending upon the category you're in. We also have a special scholarship at Merrimack. We are an Augustinian school. It's an Augustinian scholarship, which is full tuition. And this is to a specific population of students. And we will identify who those students are. So it's not necessarily something that you will apply to. And then if you're an athlete, you can receive all the way up to, so it could be as, you know, a smaller scholarship all the way up, depending on the athlete, to full tuition, room, board, books, and fees, okay? So any athlete, you want to be working with your coach as to the amount of this scholarship, working directly with them. Okay, next. Okay, so as I mentioned, a lot of times your EFC and your aid may leave you with a balance. And so how do you pay it? What are the ways that you go about paying it? And what I want to show you here is a chart that really tells you that I want you to think outside the box and think of a variety of different ways to pay your bill. So let's just do an example here. I picked a number out of the blue of $29,540. This may be made up of your EFC and a balance, okay? So how are you gonna do it? So let's break it up into a couple categories. So let's go past income. That would be savings. Has the student been able to save? Has the parent been able to save, right? Use whatever you can. Start saving now. They still have time to have, you know, a part-time job if possible in this, you know, in the climate we're in right now, if it is possible. So that's one option. You don't have it, that's fine. There's other ways. Then look at current income. Based on the income that you currently have, are you able to set aside a couple $100s a month, maybe in a 5-month payment plan for the semester to add up to, you know, maybe even $1,000 of interest-free payment there? So that's a great option. Students and parents, start looking for outside scholarships, whether you're on a database or you're asking your guidance counselors, does your high school have a scholarship night? I see lots of those out there. They're out there, and I know that because I receive them in my office. And so we get lots and lots of scholarship funding. So please do your best work on getting those. And then finally, the last thing I want you to take into account is future income, and that would be student loans or parent loans that you will pay later on. Okay, and it doesn't have to just be the student or just be the parent. You can both borrow them. So look at all these options here and not just jump right into a student loan when you see the balance. Okay, next. One of your best resources through this entire process is going to be the financial aid office. Sometimes I find parents are scared to call the financial aid office. This is very emotional, it's financial. You don't know what we're gonna say. Maybe you've heard that financial aid office say no a lot, but that's not true. We're here to help you. That's why we work in this field. We wanna make sure that this process works for you and that you go into this with your eyes wide open about the affordability of college. So talk to them about the aid that we offer. As I mentioned, what did we offer? Is it renewable? What do you need to do to keep this money, right? Is this something that you have to apply for every year? What about a special condition? We know what's going on in the world right now. Is your financial situation for your 2019 taxes really your financial situation anymore? And if it's not, how do we help you adjust that? How do we help you fix your FAFSA to make it what your situation is right now? Or what if you just want to appeal your award? You're asking if you can get a little more money. Reach out to us. We'll tell you how to do that. Also, the admissions office is going to talk about many events throughout the year, whether they be open houses or admitted student days or different events on campus. How can you touch base with financial aid? Will we be there? Or can they direct you to our office, or can they direct you to a Zoom if we're not there, right? It's very limited in staffing these days. So they can even direct you to us online. We're there and ready to help. Phone, email, like I said, Zoom. We've gotten really good at it over the last few months. And also our website is up to date, so please take advantage of that as well. Okay. All right, and so you can see here, this is the list of the staff that we have in the financial aid office. We have a staff of 7 right now. We have 4 staff that are dedicated to working directly with the students. One of the most unique things about Merrimack, I think, and I love it, is that each student that attends Merrimack, they're assigned financial aid counselor for their entire time at Merrimack. So you will have one person who you'll work with, you'll get comfortable with. I know our counselors have really great relationships with many of the students and families, and it's exciting for us to watch you go through your time here. So reach out to us. You can go to our website and it will show based on your last name who it is that you will be with. Introduce yourself. Have the student send them a Zoom. I think it's a really great way to start learning about the affordability at the college. And all our numbers are here, as Kelly mentioned. So at any point in time, if you want to reach out to us or email us, please do. I know this was quick and I know you have a lot to do tonight. So I have a little bit of time now and I can answer some questions if anyone has them, or if you have personal questions and you want to reach out to us later, please don't hesitate to do it. You can email me directly and I'd be happy to get you to your counselor.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Adrienne, for that overview. I know it's definitely a lot to take in, especially if this is your first time or maybe even your third time sometimes going, the financial aid and FAFSA process. But I will leave it up on this screen in case you want to jot down some names, emails, phone numbers, take a screenshot if you're on your phone or on your computer. But like Adrienne said, we do have the Q&A button, so please feel free to submit any questions over the next 10 minutes we're here, or rather 8 now. We're here until 6:10 to answer anything that you might have. As Adrienne mentioned, if you do have anything personal that you want to ask that's really specific to your family and your situation, definitely send them an email. But let me see. Awesome. So we have, Adrienne, a question. This person's already a student, already submitted the FAFSA, but has not submitted an early action Common App yet. Is that okay?
Absolutely. So if you filed your FAFSA and you put Merrimack school code on there, and for everyone, I didn't mention it before, our school code on the FAFSA is 002120. Used to be you could only put in the number. Actually, there's a drop down now and it says Merrimack College, but I still just do that out of habit. I've been doing this for 21 years. So I'm going to give you the code. But what happens is if you put Merrimack, we actually have those in a database. So it is sitting there. And once it is that you apply, what's going to happen is Merrimack is going to have your social security number on your Common App. It's going to match your social security number in your FAFSA, and it's going to pull it into our system. So that's actually a really good point. And with any school, a lot of times when you're doing the Common App, the social security number is an optional field. But the colleges are going to need that in order to pull in your FAFSA. So please know that this is a secure website and you're okay putting it out there, but it's the way for us to get your FAFSA. So it's okay if you did it now. We will get it once you apply.
Awesome. And we look forward to reading your application. Very excited.
Yeah.
Adrienne, kind of on that same wavelength, students, especially nowadays, they might be applying to a handful of schools or even 10 plus schools. For the students that are applying for, 10 plus schools, the FAFSA only allows those 10 schools to be listed. What advice do you have for students who are applying to more than 10?
Yeah, and I see it all the time, right? And I go along to a lot of high schools and I get this question a lot. So what I would say is go ahead, put down the 10 schools and submit your FAFSA. Then what you do is you go back into the FAFSA and you can remove one school because they already have it, and you can put in another school. Typically at that point, the only thing that will happen is the school that you took off, should you make a change to your FAFSA, will not receive that change. But as you get to that point, that 10 is going to narrow down. So you're eventually going to get to a point where only the schools that you're really interested, your top few, are going to get any changes that you make at that point in time.
Awesome. And kind of speaking about, getting alerted of the changes, how can the students and the guardians and families on the call right now know that once they submitted the FAFSA that we've actually received it?
Yeah, so Merrimack will likely be bringing in FAFSAs probably closer to the end of October. So what I would encourage you to do is sit tight. If you see your FAFSA was submitted and you go out there and it's successful and you see that the 002120 is on your FAFSA, you can feel comfortable that we have it. I would touch base with our office at the end of October. Just give us a call, to introduce yourself. or you can Zoom us, and we can look to make sure we have it. Make sure that sometimes there have been cases where the Social Security number was wrong on the Common App. It was off by a digit. So I always think it's just a really good idea to double check.
Awesome. And I know a lot of the folks on the call right now, they're looking forward to hitting that submit button on their application. They're looking forward to, getting that email, seeing their decision. And, I remember when I was in high school, getting those decision packets in the mail and looking, yeah, I'm accepted. And the next thing that you kind of look for is, what is kind of my package? Will students be able to see their financial aid package along with their decisions?
Hopefully, right? So as long as you submit your FAFSA alongside at the same time that you're submitting your admissions decision, and just give us a call just to make sure there's nothing missing, then we should be able to generate that financial aid award letter so that it is in the same portal where you receive your admission decision. And what I ask, and as we mentioned, there are lots of different funds. Please be sure that you read the funds, and if anything is confusing to you and you wonder, is this a grant? Is this gift aid? Do I have to repay? What's renewable? Please just reach out, circle it, write your questions down. I'm always impressed when families come in with a big spreadsheet for me. Take that time. It's a big investment, and we're here to help you with that.
Yeah, absolutely. As you can see, that's definitely a theme here at Merrimack. Everyone is so willing and excited to help. So definitely do not be a stranger, especially this year. I know there's a lot of moving pieces and parts that are going on in the greater world and inside, households. So definitely feel free to reach out to us. I will just kind of leave with one more question, perhaps, especially for any of those who might be hoping to be athletic recruits on the call. I know you kind of talked about that net price calculator that, families can utilize. Does that work for those who are going to be athletic recruits?
Yeah, so at Merrimack, athletes are handled a little differently when it comes to scholarships because they are being awarded athletic scholarships. Now, our office tries to work very closely with the coaches so that they understand the financial need of the family, that they understand the merit of the student. We do our best, but if you have questions, you go through the net price calculator, and the net price calculator is somewhere where you can go in and put in your GPA and put in basic financial aid data, stuff that you would put on the FAFSA. Even if you just know your EFC, you can throw that in to get a feel for what Merrimack would cost. Unfortunately, as an athlete, we can't put that in there. So you will actually have to contact your coach, and they'll be able to give you a better idea. Anyone else can go through and try and figure out what the cost might be. Again, it's an estimate, and what you put in is what you get out, right? So you can use that tool, but as an athlete, please reach out to your coach directly. Thank you for asking that, Kelly.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we are really excited. If you do have any other questions, I know usually the second you end a Zoom, you're like, oh, you know what, a question just popped into my mind. Please, again, reach out to either your admission counselor, any of these amazing people over in the financial aid office. We are really here to help and assist you throughout the process. We do hope that you continue on with our program for tonight at 6:15. If you go back to that landing page where you linked in for this session, there will be a student panel. So what better to hear about the Merrimack experience than from our own current students? So we really hope that you continue and join us for that. And again, we are so excited that you're able to join us in this virtual space. Continue to attend our virtual programming, continue to attend some of our in-person programming if you are able to and feel comfortable. And again, I hope that you and yours are doing well during this time. And, please continue to reach out to us and utilize us as resources as you navigate the college admission process. Thank you again. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.